Paradise Island Farm hydroponic experiments with a deep water culture raft system. This is our starting bed. We're using clay balls as the media. I found these to be a little bit hard to get the plants to root in, so I've also tried a Jiffy cocoa mat pad, which is a lot better. And of course the most ultimate one is a composting soil with a rooting mixture to start them off, which gets them a real lively start in life. This bed has more than 40 different lettuce in it, which is quite easy to grow using hydroponics. The second tank has lettuce which is approximately 2 weeks older than what's in the first tank. I've just separated a few out. You can see some empty holes in there to give them more space to grow. And this tank is fed, all these tanks are fed from the one system, which I'll show you when I turn this around. This is the third tank, which I took from the Australian method for aquaculture. You see these lettuce are quite large. These are approximately 3 weeks old now and doing just great. I thinned this out last night and I'll show you the finishing bed I made up, which was relatively cheap to do. The tank is an IBC bulk container, which I will do aquaponics in next year. I was just trying to get the kinks out. One of the things I did find was I used the gravel underneath the clay, which was a mistake. I did test the gravel with vinegar to see if it would foam. It didn't foam, but once we put it in the tank, the pH level went up to 7-8 and I couldn't get it down with pH down, so we removed the gravel and now sitting happily at a 6.5 pH. The finishing area was down the bottom end here of the greenhouse. The reason this is all in my greenhouse and not outside, in British Columbia here, our weather hasn't lived up to expectations yet. It's the end of May and it's still cool and wet, which lettuce like, of course, but I also have goats and other animals around the farm here which would love to get at these lettuce. Now this is the finishing bed, and I made this with 2x6s and some styrofoam insulation and a small pump at the end going into an old fish pond filter, where I can just add the nutrients which it requires. The situation here, as you can see, is a lot better. I've done two different rafts here down the center. I've got one with spaced approximately 6 inches apart, and the other side is spaced 12 inches apart, and I want to see how they finish up and the ball root comes up. The roots on these plants are very impressive. I can show you these, I think, by just lifting one out. There's the roots on that one. Now, of course, I didn't need to use the little tank. I could have just fed from one end to the other to get a flow system going. But the reason I'm using the tank is to also produce air. I do have air pumps if I need them, but right now it doesn't look like it. So you can see there, there's the swelling and the air bubbles coming into the water. Now this system, down at the bottom here as a footnote, this is fennel, which was started hydroponically, which is now being potted and ready to go out in the garden area. And I'll have fennel for sale in our little farm shop here. We're inside 2 months. Now, I got this idea from a guy from the UK who was doing a smaller system, and I really liked it because it gives you the vertical requirements if you've only got a small area. And I did lettuce again. I've got little dams at the end of each gutter, just siliconed in, and the pump supplies the water too, and then we come down to 3 levels, and as you can see we've got plenty of room here. The little storage tank is a 15-gallon food container, which didn't cost that much money, and the whole system here costs around about $160 to put together, and that includes the pump and the piping. I'm quite pleased with this, and the amount of surface area I'm using by going up is a lot less, of course. So I could imagine next year having 4 racks of this in this bottom half of the greenhouse. Now the greenhouse is 28 by 12, so that bottom raft there, the finishing raft, is 8 by 4. So, you know, you can get a good idea of what's happening. And that'll be it for this session, and I'll put another one on in a couple of weeks.